Left off yesterday regarding the one who was chosen to oversee the building of the Mishkan. And Hashem says to Moshe, Rei Korosi b'shem Betzal ben Uri ben Chur Lamati Yehuda. You should understand I've chosen Betzal ben Ur ben Chur Mati Yehuda. So we explained yesterday why we trace his pedigree back more than one generation. That because Chur was the first Jew to sanctify Hashem's name publicly. He was the son of Miriam, the great nephew of Moshe. Betzalel, Chur was the nephew of Moshe. And when they suggested they should make the Egel, Hazov, the golden calf, which is idolatry, he protested, and he was killed by the Rabble. So because he had done such a selfless, holy act to give his life for Hashem, his grandson, although he was only 13 years old, merited this endowment and this infusion of understanding of divine wisdom to be able to oversee the Mishkan. That's why Betzalel, his pedigree is traced back to Chur. It's not enough to say Betzal ben Uri. It's only because he was ben Chur. That's why he was chosen to be the one to oversee the Mishkan. The Midrash tells us that initially Moshe believed that he'd probably be the one to oversee the Mishkan, because no one has an understanding of the inner workings of creation and understanding of spirituality as Moshe. Moshe at this point already is this is after he brought down the Luchos Shnios, the second tablets. He already has studied the Torah, was taught the Torah by Hashem. He spent 120 days in heaven. So he thought initially he would be. So he says, no, it's Betzal ben Uri ben Chur Lamati Yehuda. It's your great nephew. But it seems to be, it's only because of this reason Betzal was chosen. But if not, Moshe, no question, will be the one to actually to oversee the building of the Mishkan. I was thinking, we find that although Moshe Rabbeinu had allowed the rabble to go out from Egypt, which was not endorsed by Hashem, Moshe did not consult with God, that these great numbers of pagans who were sent out by Paro initially, as the Midrash tells us, Paro originally had sent out large numbers, maybe hundreds of thousands of these Egyptians, to guarantee that the Jews come back. Although after the 10th plague, he drove the Jews out of Egypt, but even in that context, it was only because they said we're going for 3 days. He believed maybe they were coming back, but he wasn't going to just rely on their word that coming back in 3 days. So he sent very large numbers of rabble, and he said to them that if the Jews don't come back, you're going to have to assume their workload and be involved mortar and brick. So that would guarantee that these large numbers of Egyptians would force the Jews to come back after 3 days. What happened? As it says, the Jews left Biyodrama. They left with glory. Hashem is leading them. They're not coming back, and there's no way they could stop them. When they realized that they couldn't stop Klal Yisrael from coming back after 3 days, they said, look, we're no fools. Going back, we're not going back to become slaves, to be in the place of the Jews. So what did they do? They continued on with the Jews. But factually, because of this, what happened? They were the fifth column in Klal Yisrael, that when they believed Moshe was no longer alive, they introduced idolatry. And they were able to create this position to follow it. So they are the ones who actually initiated the Avodah Zorah, and as a result of that, the Jews followed. But if not for the rabble, there was not even the consideration they would gravitate towards idolatry. So Moshe is in Shemayim, in heaven, And Hashem says to Moshe, Raid kishichis amcho. Go down because your people have become corrupted. And he explained that the Rabble introduced Avodah Zorah because Moshe says to Hashem, what do you mean? Shiches amcho, your people became corrupted. Moshe says, Hashem, why isn't your people? He says, because I never endorsed you taking out the Egyptians. It was your decision to allow the Egyptians to leave Egypt. Because if they wouldn't have left, it wouldn't have happened. So therefore, it's amcho. It's your people, not my people. Okay? So although Moshe, it was his decision to take them out, and the only reason why the idolatry came about was due to what Moshe had allowed, we don't find Moshe is faulted for this. He's not faulted, no punishment whatsoever, as we'll explain in a moment. So we'd say that, so why did we need a Mishkan? We needed a Mishkan, which was the intermediary, was the medium through which we had a relation with Hashem, because Moshe allowed the rabble to leave Egypt. We became tainted with idolatry because of the Egyptians were there, but they were only there because of Moshe. So as a result, you would say that now when it comes to build a Mishkan, although Moshe had the capacity and the understanding what was needed for the Mishkan, he should not be the one to build the Mishkan. Therefore, it was Bezalel. Zalel ben Ur ben Chur l'Mata Yehuda, he was the one who was chosen. Or you would say no, that because it was due to him that the relationship now was arm's length, because of the Chet Egel, just to the contrary, he should be the one. Because he should be the one to reinstate and correct the relationship, and that only comes through the Mishkan. Therefore, he believed he definitely should be the one to oversee the Mishkan, to make that correction, that reinstatement, to some degree. And that Hashem says, no, it's only because Bezalel's grandfather, which was Chur, he was the first Jew to sanctify God's name, not to allow idolatry, and this is a correction on that. Therefore, he's the one who's chosen, although he's only 13 years old, to be infused and be endowed with the understanding of how to build a Mishkan. That's how I understand it. It seems to be only because he was the grandson of Chur, that's why he merited. But if not for that, Moshe believed that he be the one. But the reason why he believed he'd be the one, not only because he had the understanding, but only because he was responsible for what happened, because he allowed the Egyptians to leave Egypt with the Jews. So we had explained then, Moshe, everything he did was based on Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar. Why, when he allowed the Egyptians to leave Egypt, why didn't he consult with Hashem? So what he had said was that one of the reasons given the Gemara in the Dorim, why the Jews went to Egypt, this is a review for Alan. Why did the Jews go to Egypt? According to one opinion, because Avram Avinu, after he had defeated the four mightiest kings, and one of the kings that were originally taken captive was the king of Sodom, and the king of Sodom says to Avram Avinu, "Tein li hanefesh harush kachloch." Give me the people, you take the spoils. So Avram says, I will not take bichut v'atzroch now. I will not take not a thread, not a bootstrap from you. But what he should have said was, give me the people. If he was the victor, if he would have taken those people, he had the ability to convert them to monotheism. Ultimately, why did they all perish? They all perished pagans, because Avram Avinu allowed them to go back with the king of Sodom. So because he could have converted them, and he did not, that is one of the reasons, one opinion, why we went to Egypt, because he failed. He failed by not. So Moshe Rabbeinu understands. Why did we go to Egypt? Because Avram had an opportunity to take these people and turn them into monotheists. So here you have hundreds of thousands of pagans leaving Egypt with us. And we're going to Sinai. And they're going to be exposed to a level of Hashem's presence in the history of existence. It hasn't happened. So am I going to repeat Avram Avinu's mistake? It's the same problem. Here I have the opportunity. How I can't miss the opportunity. So therefore, Moshe believed this is an easy one. There's no reason to consult. It's definitely, the numbers are much greater. Definitely, he should allow them to leave. But the only mistake he had made, as we explained, was that when Avram Avinu made the mistake, there was no Jewish people. So he wasn't bringing a group of pagans or people who originally represented evil into a setting where you have other people which are of that special level. Here, there's a Klal Yisrael. There's an entity which is at a special level, nearly 100% pure. To allow this fifth column to be brought into this foreign element into that setting, that was a mistake. That was the differentiator between Avram Avinu and himself. Therefore, Hashem says, you should have consulted with me. And because you did not consult with me, therefore it's Amcha, it's your people, and it's not my people. But factually, he was not held accountable in terms of punishment-wise, but logically, he should be the one to oversee the building of the Mishkan, because this would have been a correction on what he had done, but nevertheless, Bezalel had priority on it because he was the grandson of Chur. Okay, Alan.